Welcome to the 2021 Nebraska Arts Council Statewide Arts Conference. In case you're not familiar with Nebraska Arts Council, we're a Nebraska state agency whose mission is to promote, cultivate, and sustain the arts for the people of Nebraska. During this conference, there is a session each morning and each afternoon from August 16th through the 20th, so all week this week. Just as a reminder, we are recording each session. Since we're using the meetings version of Zoom for this session, please remember to keep your mic muted so that we're not distracted by background noise. Thank you for attending this session entitled So You Want to Be a Creative District. My name is Rachel Morgan, and I am a program specialist here at the Nebraska Arts Council. I am a white female with long sandy brown hair that I actually have pinned up today. I am wearing glasses and a green jacket. During this session, we're going to review the following things. What is the purpose of the Creative District program? What are the benefits of the program? Who is eligible for the Creative District program? What are the steps involved in becoming a creative district? And the grant programs that are attached to the program. We'll end the session by breaking into small groups and taking questions. So please feel free to hold your questions until we get to those breakout rooms. Now, just as a warning, we may not have all of the answers to your questions since this is a brand new program. But rather than make something up, if we don't know the answer, we're going to record it and we'll address it as a staff, and we're going to get that answer for you. The Creative District program is a program that is ran by the Nebraska Arts Council with legislation passed by the Nebraska Legislature that will show the arts as an economic driver, support communities in Nebraska in telling their stories, and elevate the value of the arts. Therefore, the Creative District program is a little different than your typical grant program. This program will work to show the economic impact of the arts. A creative district is a well-defined geographic area, and we'll get to that in just a minute, with a high concentration of creative resources and activities. Creative districts works to help communities throughout the state thrive. The certification can bolster their creative economy, enhance vitality, and improve livability. This can support a region's ability to grow jobs and increase educational and creative opportunities for residents and visitors. So some of you may be asking, but why should I become a creative district? This program will help community with many things, including attracting and retaining artists and creative enterprises, encouraging businesses and job development, establishing the district as a tourist destination, and preserving and reusing historic buildings. And it can also help to promote the district's cultural and historical heritage. Because of all those things, creative districts will create hubs of economic activity, maximizing the various cultural assets to create a unique identity that enhances the area as an appealing place to live, visit, work, and create new economic activity. And of course, becoming eligible for potential grant funds is also a big benefit. So who can become a creative district? The answer is really any community. We've designed the program so that it is open to any community in Nebraska. Your community designs the district. Larger communities such as Lincoln, Omaha, Grand Island, and Kearney may have multiple districts in their city, and that's okay, as long as each has its own unique identity. We do require that the districts are either walkable or easy to navigate, and you'll explain how they're easy to navigate during the submission process. There are some eligibility requirements to think through. Only organizational partnerships are eligible to apply. At a minimum, the partnership must include 3 organizations. One of those organizations must be a branch of local government. Other partners can include a cultural nonprofit or artist collective, a local business or business association, or maybe a community development corporation. The majority of the organizations in the partnerships must be located within that district. We understand that you may have some partners or a partner that is outside the geographic bounds of the district, and that's okay. We do, however, expect a majority of those partners to be located within the district. Your partner should also be prepared to write a letter of support. Now, it would seem obvious that one of your partners should be a cultural nonprofit, because that works with creative districts, right? If your community has one, that would be a great partner. Examples include a museum, performing arts center, visual art gallery, or a community theater. Cultural nonprofits must have a 2-year history of arts programming or activities to show sustainability. We will require a memorandum of understanding, an MOU, or a letter of agreement between partnering entities, or a local government resolution acknowledging the partnership. That lets us know that the local government is aware of and supports the Creative District program. What we have found is that if you don't have the support of your local government entity, it's really hard to get anything done. Now, one organization is going to serve as the lead applicant for the purposes of completing the application, and we're going to call them the district administrator. The district administrator will be the contact for the Nebraska Arts Council, and they will assume the fiscal responsibility for the grant programs associated with the creative district. Examples of a district administrator can include a municipal or tribal government, chamber of commerce, a registered neighborhood organization, a downtown development authority, or a development organization. Things that the district administrator should have is they need to have a minimum of a $10,000 annual operating budget. They need to be an incorporated nonprofit organization physically located in the state of Nebraska that has their articles of incorporation current and on file in the Nebraska Secretary of State's office, or they can be a subdivision of government. They need to have their FEIN number, which is their federal employer identification number. They need to have received federal tax exempt status. Divisions of government must submit a copy of their sales tax exemption certificate from the State Department of Revenue. Because this is going to be the organization that handles all the paperwork and the reporting associated with the Creative District program, you're going to need someone who is organized and responsive. Here you'll see a flow chart of the steps involved in the Creative District process. Now, don't let this overwhelm you. I know it looks like there's a lot of steps. We'll talk through each one separately. So step 1. First of all, let me start off by saying the process of becoming a creative district is not based on deadlines, which is a little different than our grant programs, if you're used to those. But that being said, this is going to take time. How much time is completely up to you and to your community. So the first step is to submit a letter of interest. You're going to submit that to the NAC staff, and it's going to be a 1-page letter that includes the following: the name of the community or district, the contact information for the district administrator, the key partners in your district, a brief description of your community and its cultural or historical heritage, why the community would be a good candidate for the Creative District program. And then we'd like you to identify what that certification grant of $10,000 will be spent on if it is awarded. Now, we understand this may change by the time you get to that point. What we're looking for is a community who is looking ahead and looking to the future and has a plan of what it is that they want to do. Those letters of interest will be accepted starting September 1st, so just a couple of weeks away. They should be emailed to the address on the slide, which is nac.grants@nebraska.gov. This letter will be followed up by a discussion with the NAC staff. If the letter of interest is approved, the NAC staff will provide the eligibility assessment. Which brings us to step 2. In the office, we affectionately call this the workbook. Officially, we call it the eligibility assessment. This workbook will help to guide your community through discussions on various topics. We'll have a copy of the workbook available on our website. It's there now if you want to take a look at it after the session is done and you'd like to see the different things that we're going to talk about. But I'll give you some ideas. We're going to ask you to describe your community's cultural identity. What makes your community unique and sets it apart from other places? We'll also be collecting some data. By tracking this data over time, that's how we're going to show this program is successful. We're going to ask you to do some asset mapping, which is why you should attend the session tomorrow morning that Rebecca Harding is leading on asset mapping. What do you already have in your community that you can build upon? We're going to ask you about the management of the district. Do you have the support of your local elected officials? Who will be your district administrator? Who are your key partners? Who are you missing and why? Which is sometimes a bigger question. Are there regulations that impact the development of the area? Are there projects that need to take place to make the area more accessible? What would you like to see added to your community? What do the educational opportunities look like in your area? What about the local workforce and creative economy? How do you plan to market your creative district? Then we move on to outreach. What kinds of community outreach have you done already? How have you involved artists and other creatives in the planning process, which is a huge part of creative districts? What challenges have you encountered? We're also going to ask you for a SWOT analysis. For those of you that are unfamiliar with SWOT, it stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. For those of you that are familiar with strategic planning, that's going to sound kind of familiar. You've heard that before, right? And then we're going to move into some strategic planning questions. Do you have a mission and vision for the district? Do you have value statements? What do you want to see happen in your creative district in 3 years? What about 5 years? What needs to happen in order for those things to come to fruition? And now you see why it may take a while to complete that workbook. Some communities may already be having those conversations, and some may just be starting them. When you've completed the workbook, whether that takes months or years, you will email it to the NAC staff. The workbook will be reviewed by both the staff and a panel of outside reviewers who are experts in the field of economic development. They will provide feedback about the workbook. If they feel the community is ready to move on to the next step, they will be invited on. If there are areas that the panel feels the community needs to work on, this will be relayed and the community will be invited to resubmit after having addressed those areas. So now we'll move on to step 3, the creative district plan. At this point, a site visit will be scheduled with the Nebraska Arts Council staff. We'll meet with the potential district and discuss the feedback from the panel. The community will be invited to submit a creative district plan that is individual to them. This isn't like a cookie cutter process where all the plans will look the same. The plan will outline the goals of the district, how they plan to achieve them, and how they're going to be measured. This plan will be submitted to the NAC staff. This plan will also be reviewed by outside panelists. And the reason we do that is that this way there's plenty of opportunities for feedback along the way and throughout this process. If the panel feels that there are areas the community needs to address more clearly in the plan, they'll be invited to resubmit after revisiting those. But if the panel approves the plan, the district is now a certified creative district. Woohoo! And we're going to cue the confetti and have a party. Once you are a certified creative district, you are now eligible for a certification grant of $10,000 and a development grant. But hold on to that thought. We'll come back to those in just a minute. Let's finish this process first. Just because you become certified doesn't mean that the work stops. Each year, you'll be required to submit annual reports. Going back to that data collection that we talked about in the workbook, this is where we're going to track that information from year to year. This data is going to be how we show that creative districts are successful in being an economic driver. This is also why that district administrator is so important. They'll be the entity charged with filling this out. Failure to submit reports in a timely manner will impact their ability to become recertified. The certification lasts for 5 years. At that point, the district has the opportunity to recertify. All right, so now we're going to talk about the grant programs, which I know you are all really interested in. And I told you we'd come back to it, right? There are 2 grant programs that are associated with creative districts. One is the certification grant, and one is the development grant. The certification grant is received when the district becomes certified. So that's where the name comes from. The grant award amount is $10,000 and it does not require a cash match. However, a final report will be required to show how you spent those funds. How do you spend the funds? Well, here's some example of how they can be spent. Community enhancement projects like new benches or public art. You can see on your screen some different examples. The top image on the right is a mural in North Omaha. The middle image are some painted basketball courts that are located in Overton, Nebraska. And then the bottom image is some sidewalk enhancements in a community in South Omaha. You can also spend the funds on events that help attract visitors to the district. Maybe you've always wanted to host a street festival that includes artists and performances, but you've just never had the funds to do it. Once again, some examples. At the top is a performance from here, Nebraska. The middle is an event that was held in Ogallala. And then the bottom is an artist market that was held in Benson, here in Omaha. Funds can also be spent on marketing materials, such as website development, signage, or banners. Obviously, it's a little hard to have a visual representation of a website, but you'll see on this slide, there is an image of a welcome sign as you come into Oshkosh, and an example of some banners that Benson has in their community. Now we know that for some communities, the $10,000 may be all you need to get something up and off the ground. And then other communities may have bigger needs. Therefore, you can also use the $10,000 to help pay for administration fees or consultants that will help you flesh out your creative district plan and submit a development grant. You could do some things like focus groups in the top image. Maybe you want someone to help you do some more in-depth strategic planning as shown in the middle image. Or maybe you need someone to come in and help facilitate some town hall meetings, like in the bottom image. The other grant that is associated with this program is the development grant. This grant has a maximum request of $250,000, and there is no minimum request amount. The grant funds are limited to one per district per year as funds allow. And priority will be given to the districts that have not received funds in the past in this category. This is a multi-year grant, and the funds do not have to be spent within one fiscal year, which is very different than our other grant programs, if you're familiar with our other grants. A separate application will be required for this grant program. You'll be required to show how the funds requested support the approved creative district plan and how it will further the economic development of the district. This development grant could be the catalyst for your fundraising efforts. How can these funds be spent? Much the same way. Programming, so high quality arts programming that will attract a significant number of visitors to the creative district. Physical enhancements to the creative district to make it more accessible, attractive, cohesive looking, and safe for visitors. Marketing, so promotion of the district. This can include a website, branding, and marketing. It can also include improved signage and wayfinding for the district. It can also be used for operational support, organizational support for the management and operations of the district. This is limited for the designated district administrator organizations that are in those certified creative districts, but they might need some help getting that operational support. I found this really interesting. Senator Flood yesterday morning talked about think big, right? Which I already had this slide created, so I was pretty excited. We're on the same path there. And I think Matt Sennert even said it this morning. This is the opportunity to think big. Maybe you want to buy and or renovate an empty building. Maybe you want to improve the streetscape with new sidewalks, lighting, and accessibility compliance. Maybe you want to do a feasibility study to explore the potential of building a shared performing arts center for community members and visitors. One of the things that we are working on in the office is putting together a list of different examples so you can see what other creative districts and other states have done, just so you can kind of have some ideas. Which brings me to my next point. As I said before at the beginning, remember, this is a work in progress, right? This is a brand new program. So we're learning along with you. So if you see some minor changes along the way, either to the creative district program and the process or the grant programs that are associated with it, just take it in stride. There may be some things that we have to adjust as we go forward. Here is some contact information. I'll put this up at the end of the session also, but if you have specific questions after we get done with this session, or maybe next week you're thinking about things and you have a question, here's some good contact. I'll be your contact. Once again, my name is Rachel Morgan, and my phone number and email you can see up there, which is rachel.morgan@nebraska.gov. If you want to send us an LOI, which opens in September, we're going to have you send those to our grants and data administrator, and their email address is nac.grants@nebraska.gov. Now, if you give us a call, you'll notice both of our phone numbers are really, really close, right? So we're very used to getting each other's phone calls, and it is not a problem if there is a question that is meant for the other person. We will send you to the other one. It is not a problem. It happens a lot because our phone numbers are very close together.